This is a good time to make sure that you really do have everything that you need in your home and that you are prepared to not go out at all for a significant amount of time.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I'm Grimm.
And I'm Violet.
And welcome to Season 6 of the Bug Out Boys. And in this 6th season, we always like to progress the show forward. And while Violet and I were getting married and moving, we had an opportunity to read a lot of the comments and suggestions that fans, you guys out there, have been sending us to go to different places of bugging out and different scenarios. And Violet and I came to a realization that so far the show has always started that we're already bugging out. We're already on our way there. And to be honest with you, there's a lot that happens before we get to that bug out phase, if you will. And there's a lot of things that we can do to prepare, as well as to prepare our homes. And that's what we're going to be showing you today. So join us on this Bug Out Boys adventure. Well, this was supposed to be a scenario, but
This is life now.
this is life. We're living in it. This is really happening.
Yep.
And unlike other Bug Out Boy episodes where it's 3 days or 5 days, we're actually going to be going through the 3 levels of, well, this type of an event.
Which is normally preparation, management, and containment. So we're kind of walk through how you're going to interact with other people and also how to keep your space and the people that you're living with safe.
Exactly. And along the way, we're going to be disproving some myths, definitely fact-checking, giving you accurate information on what you could be doing if you find yourself in a bit of a epidemic or a pandemic. Welcome to our home.
Before you can prepare for a situation like this, you need to know what you're dealing with. There are 2 websites that I rely on pretty heavily for knowing whether something I'm hearing in the news or from a friend or seeing on social media is real or not. The first one is the WHO website. This is a global collection of scientists and researchers and doctors that just like to study how we get sick and are really interested when a bunch of us get sick in one area and whether or not it can travel from a small group of people to a large group of people. The second website is the CDC. I live in the United States, so this is going to be kind of my judgment to see what the government's response is most likely going to be in a certain situation. Now, for what we're dealing with now, we're dealing with a virus. So everything that you are going to see us recommend or talk about is going to be in preparation to keep us safe from a virus. These things may not always be effective when you're dealing with spores or bacteria or something of the chemical nature. So it's important to know what you're dealing with and how best to protect yourself.
One thing that you all can do right from the start, if the contagion or the bad bug is in your state or your county or just a little bit too close to comfort, is start taking your shoes off at the front door. A lot of you might do this already, but if you don't, this is a great practice because a lot of stuff can come in on your boots. People spit on the ground, vomit, a lot of other things. And if you notice, Violet already has a bit of Clorox wipes here and has wiped down these shoes. And one thing that's very important to notice is that she's letting them dry. You have to let the Clorox wipes dry, otherwise it's not disinfected yet. So now, shoes are off. I'm not spraying the germs into our home. I'm going to go to the closest sink and wash my hands. I'm not touching anything on my way in, no light switches, nothing of the sort. The closest one happens to be my kitchen. And now we're going to talk about how to properly wash your hands. Hot water, and let it get hot. You're also going to use some real soap. It's got some antibacterial soap right now. That'll do the trick. And mind you, this is not medical, sterile cleaning. This is just getting the germs off your hands, because as hard as you may try, when you go out, you're going to be touching things with your hands and they're going to get dirty. So wash the tops, palms, the thumbs, in between the fingers, on top of the fingers, maybe a little bit up the wrist. If you're wearing jewelry, wedding ring, take that off because it can get underneath there. 20 seconds, I don't care if you do your alphabet, count to 1,000, sing happy birthday to yourself, do that, rinse them off, and then dry them off. And then now you can start living your life like a normal human being inside your house. But while we are in our kitchen, Violet's going to go over on what you might want to look at in your kitchen, again, when you're at a level 1 situation.
So at this stage, you just really want to evaluate what you already have in your kitchen. And treat this as you would any time you would normally prep to go out grocery shopping. Whether you're a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly shopper, just kind of taking a look and seeing what you're low on, and what you know your family eats a lot of on a regular basis. For us, we're pretty heavy on the canned goods, and fresh produce seem to be our heaviest thing. So I'm gonna make sure I've got like my variety of grains, making sure that I have enough flour, and all of my baking funness. And we go through a lot of dried fruit and nuts. So I'm gonna make sure that those are pretty well stocked. Now, keep in mind, this is about the regular everyday cabinet. I'm not talking about what you've already kind of gathered in your house gradually to prepare for things, your emergency cache of food. This is just kind of getting a lay of the land of where you are and making sure you're buying those staples, those cabinet staples.
Now that we have a moment, let's talk about what we are actually dealing with, and that is the COVID-19 virus. It's in our state, it's in our county. So that's why we have started at level 1 right now.
And as best as we can tell, it's being spread through fluids coming from the respiratory system. So that's coughing, sneezing, really anything having to do with mucus, phlegm in particular, and spit. So you're also going to want to check out those vapes that you may or may not be sharing, and sharing of glasses that you're drinking out of.
Yeah, and so you're still living life at this point. You're still going to work, your kids are still going to school, you're still going to the grocery store to pick things up. And if you look at people are gross. People don't cover their mouths when they're coughing or sneezing hardly, and then I'm pretty sure one of you at one point in time has seen the person go and then grabbed a handle or a handrail or something and opened it. And now that handle is dirty. And if you're going out there, you're not going to be able to avoid the buttons, the handles. And those things are touched by 5, 50, 500, 500,000 people. So treat the world as it's contaminated. And even though you're going to have to touch it, the most important part is that you don't touch your face.
And there are a couple things that you can do to help prevent you wanting to touch your face. For me, the first step is making sure that I put my hair all the way back. Same thing with our kid, making sure that her hair is all the way back, and we're using headbands or clippies to keep the little hairs from enticing you to scratch your face.
Kind of use your shoulder here, something to that effect. It's not your hands, because these are what is contaminated, not this part. And then you'll be actually not infecting yourself.
I've also made some other decisions, like not wearing long dangling necklaces, not having earrings in, and thinking about some of my wardrobe choices at work. I'm not wearing the kimono style jacket because it could sweep over surfaces or just kind of drag around picking up germs. I'm going to grab the cardigan or the fitted jacket instead.
So just don't touch your face, because the world's dirty irregardless of having COVID-19. This just makes you remember a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's Squid.
That's Squid.
Welcome, Squid, to the Bug Out Boys.
Yay!
Well, I just got done wiping down the front door handle and deadbolt with a Clorox wipe, and now I'm just going throughout my house and I'm wiping every light switch. I'm wiping down every faucet knob, whether it be in the kitchen or in the bathroom. I'm wiping down the thermostat again, and I'm hitting up what I consider hot spots. These are the places where you touch all the time, and you don't know how germy your hands were before this. So this is just a good clean slate practice to make sure that you're creating a nice clean environment for you to come home to. That way, when you do come home, you're taking off shoes, go wash your hands, and the only thing that you really have to worry about that's contaminated in your house now is that front door, and then again, boom, quick little Clorox wipe, and you're good to go. So go throughout your house and clean your hot spots. Now we're at level 2. The infection has continued to spread, and for the people of the United States, this means that the government has now put restrictions on certain things. For example, no more than 250 people are allowed to gather in a given area, and that number can change as the government sees fit, lowering it as the infection continues to spread. This also might mean some businesses are not allowed to be open at this point in time. But other than that, life continues as it always does. But because now we're at level 2, that also means that Violet and myself are taking a new level of precautions. Just because we're at a level 2 doesn't mean that the world stops. Most of us are still going to be going to work because we have bills to pay. But just because you're going to work doesn't mean you shouldn't be taking precautions. Take some Lysol wipes with you. Wipe down your mouse, your keyboard, your phone, your screen. Create a clean area at your work if you can. Also, watch out for all the work hotspots. Phones are extremely dirty. The fax machine, copier, the printer, the coffee machine, any place that people congregate or use frequently are going to be contaminated. If you can wipe them down, great, but most importantly, if you use them, don't touch your face, don't touch yourself, and don't go into your clean environment until you wash your hands. This is also a good time to practice some social distancing. 4 to 6 feet, no more handshakes, no more clapping on the back, no more leaning over people or having people lean over you while you're working. Create that social distance because you don't know if they're infected and you don't know if they're taking the same precautions that you are, and you want to be safe. But what about the people that don't have that luxury? Your servers, your bartenders, your retail clerks, people that work in an environment that is a revolving door of people. You're just going to have to take it an extra notch. First of all, money is extremely dirty and credit cards are not much better. Those plates, those glasses, those forks, those knives, you're going to have to touch them. You don't know if they've been sneezed on, etc. You're not going to be able to wash your hands after clearing every fork or every glass or every money exchange. But you're going to have to keep track that you do not touch your face, do not touch your clothes, your body until you can actually wash your hands. And I understand also in those environments, you're close to people. I get it. Social distancing is going to be very difficult, but do your best. When you have a moment to socially distance yourself from people, take it.
Staying in means eating in. So you've already checked your stores to make sure that you have your normal shelf-stable staples popped away, and you've loaded your freezer with meat, most likely, if you are meat eaters. You've also already gone shopping for next week or next month's stash of staples and put them somewhere else. Now is a great time to pull out some of those recipes that your mom or your grandmom gave you for casseroles, because cooking every day, every single meal is going to get old fast. You're going to get tired of cleaning up the kitchen, and at some point you're going to start breaking into that pleasure convenient food that you have, and it's going to go away really quickly. Casseroles are a great solution to that. You can cook them. They're normally one meal in one pan. Stick them in the fridge, go and grab it when you need it. Another thing that I really love to use is the Instant Pot, or an Instapot-like item. You can cook stuff super fast in giant quantities, and you can just reach in, scoop out what you want, and put the lid back on.
In addition to the canned food and dried food that Violet was talking about and making those larger meals, if you're a canner, like I am, this is an excellent opportunity for you to start delving into all the canned food that you have been making throughout the years. Dilly beans from 2017? Sounds pretty good right about now. But there is another option for food. Another way of getting food, you could have it delivered. Thanks. But that comes with its own problems. The first thing you're going to notice is that this is not touching my body. I haven't put it on the floor. I haven't put it on my ottoman. I'm treating this as being contaminated because, well,
It is. Not the food necessarily, but the bag, all of the containers have been touched by you don't know how many people. And then having it delivered, it's being put into the car, and you don't know how many people that delivery person has come into contact with.
exactly. So even though it's very convenient to order food in, it's a risk. And it's a risk that you may or may not want to take. So what we're going to do with this food is that we're going to pick a particular area that we know that we can disinfect. Something that's a harder surface, we'll put the bag down, we'll take the food out, put it in clean dishes, trash this, and then that little area, we'll wipe it down with some bleach or Clorox wipes to make sure that we have not infected our safe area. Ready for some Chinese food?
Yup.
We've been cooped up for a couple of days, and the weather is just too nice to stay in any longer. We're practicing social distancing and avoiding a high touching area like playgrounds. But while we're out here, I realize this is a good time to talk about vulnerable populations and why you should care. Vulnerable populations for illnesses are the very, very young, the very, very old, people who are immunocompromised, and people that cannot be or choose not to be vaccinated. When these populations become sick, it tends to be more serious with longer lasting effects and death. It's important to keep ourselves safe as well as those around us. So while we're still in a level 2, we've dropped down from being allowed to gather in groups of 250 down to 10 people. This is a good time to make sure that you really do have everything that you need in your home and that you are prepared to not go out at all for a significant amount of time. When I went to the store, the shelves were hit pretty hard. And it wasn't just the canned food and bread and milk. I'm also walking down the health and beauty aisle, and there are some critical items that I will need as a woman, and there was not a whole lot there to be had. If you want to know more about what I'm talking about, check out my talk. The link is going to pop up in the corner for periods, not the end.
I bet you're wondering when we'd start talking about masks. I'm seeing on social media it's a bit of a hot topic, whether they do anything or they don't, whether they're good or they're causing hysteria. And I didn't want to start talking about masks until we were at a point where a mask could be beneficial for us. Well, again, we're dealing with COVID-19, which is an airborne virus, so a proper mask, could be beneficial. But you gotta know the mask, and you gotta know how to wear it. In front of me, I have a disposable 3M NIOSH rated N95 mask. And I also have a half-face 3M mask with interchangeable replaceable P100 filters. You gotta know the numbers. The N95 means that 95% of 0.3 micron particulates will be filtered through this mask. The P100 is 99.97% of those same size particulates. So that does include bacteria and viruses. But this is disposable and these are replaceable. That means that you are going to have more than one. You're also going to have to know how to wear it. Now, as you can see here, this guy goes over the nose, comes down around, and creates a decent seal. Decent. But if you notice with the half-face respirator, that creates a much better seal, more straps, more rigid construction. And that's important. You want a good seal around your nose and your mouth. Gentlemen with facial hair, well, you're a bit SOL. With the big beards, you're really up creek. But with shorter hair like mine, or 5 o'clock shadow, it's not as bad. Obviously, clean shaven is the best. For those of you who don't want to shave your whiskers, you can take some petroleum jelly, at least for these types of respirators, put it around here, and it'll create a better seal. I've done that while snorkeling and scuba diving. It does work. But you gotta seal this area because you want to protect this. So you've protected the nose and the mouth. Your eyes are still exposed. Someone sneezes in your face, or you go to touch your face, great, that's protected. Oh, but you touch your eye, you can still infect yourself. So the mask is great, but you're gonna want some eye protection as well to at least keep yourself from touching your eye. For those of us that are still gonna be working during the level 2 status, no matter how much you try to do at work, there is a lot of unwanted social contact at work. You see I have a table right here for Violet and I. We can put our keys, our sunglasses, things like that. Of course, I'm going to be taking off my shoes, but as the number of infected goes up, there's a higher probability that the clothes that you're wearing might be infected as well. Brushing up against something, people clapping you, giving you a hug that you don't want. So within my little clean room here, if you will, and hopefully you'll have someone that loves you just as much as Violet does, I am going to be stripping out of the clothing that could possibly have contact with infected areas or people. Violet is taking those clothes and they're going straight to the washing machine, and I am going straight to the shower.
It's been a few days now, and we've entered into level 3 of this situation. The schools have been closed indefinitely, and the government has released a list of businesses they have now decided are considered essential. With that list, they've also given those businesses guidelines on how they must operate in order to keep their staff and their patrons safe. The government has also given law enforcement the right to heavily fine or even arrest individuals that are not following the 10-person maximum gathering law that has been passed at this point. Right now is not the time that you want to be arrested. That is a space of a lot of people in a very confined way. We are already showing populations within the detention centers and jails that are coming up positive. We are not going to have this problem. We have enough supplies in our home to keep everybody happy, healthy, and safe for the foreseeable future. We've also had to stock up on homeschooling materials because now we're elementary school teachers as well. Because of my job in the government, I have to go into the office at least once every 2 weeks. But Grimm and I have that covered.
Because Violet is essential and she is still going to work during these times, we have upgraded our entry procedure into our home. We now have a bin where all of our keys or goggles, masks, things like that go into, and we know that we can sterilize the bin as well as the things inside there. And even before you step foot into our home, you're actually going to be stepping into an alcohol bin of at least 60% isopropyl alcohol at a minimum, then that will kill all the germs on your shoes. Make sure you keep that container covered because alcohol does like to evaporate. But then it's normal. Either one of us strip down, go straight into the washer, and to be clean, so we are keeping our home safe. But while you're out there,
the important thing is to make sure you're wearing that PPE in the first place. I make sure that I have my gloves, a fresh pair, every time I'm exiting or entering into my vehicle or an establishment. That I have my mask that's properly sealing around me. And I have enough layers on that after I've entered a place that I've deemed dirty, I can remove that layer into the dirty space in the back of my vehicle and have a fresh layer on underneath.
Yeah, so think of it as like layers are not so much to keep warm now, they're actually just layers of protection from the infection. One concern that my family and I have not had during this whole ordeal has been our water, and that was thanks to Epic Water Filter's Nano Pitcher, because it filters out lots of things, but the most important in this current time is viruses. And granted, we're still hooked up to county water, but it doesn't hurt to be a little extra cautious during a situation like this. But if you want to know Violet's full review of Epic Water Filter's Nano Pitcher, check out the link that's going to be popping up in the corner. Give it a like and stay hydrated and virus free. Well, normally during a bug out, we read a conflicted card, but we're not going to do that because since we're home, we have access to Conflicted Survive the Apocalypse board game, which is a really fun game and very in-depth. And when you're out there grabbing your essentials, think about some board games because you can only watch TV for so long. You're going to have to engage your mind a little bit more than that.
Yeah. And something that I've realized while we've been playing this and we're building our camps is that it is important to think about where you are during these situations. Being in an apartment where you are with a lot of people in that building, not necessarily your apartment, but the building itself, and you've got all of that communal space, you might really want to think about getting to a single family home or a designated bug out spot.
Exactly. You share possibly laundry rooms, or you at least share the hallways, all those railings, again, what we talked about earlier. So if you have the opportunity and can do it, I would suggest that you do bug out to a less populated area. And if you decide to go full bug out, like we normally do, into the woods, make sure you have some sort of a communication device, radio, that you can listen and find out what's going on out there, whether it's getting worse or better, so you know that you can come home safely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this Bug Out Boys episode. We understand it was a little bit different than the normal, but we hope it was just as informative, if not more so, given the state of affairs that we find ourselves in today. Again, this was supposed to be a scenario, but it's definitely not a scenario. This is real. A lot of things have changed since the beginning of filming this episode to this point right now.
Yeah, today our governor put us under a stay-home order, which means unless you are traveling to an essential job or to get groceries or prescriptions, pretty much, you are not allowed to be driving around or going to parks or anything like that. And if they catch you, it's up to a $5,000 fine and or a year in jail.
Yeah. Now, mind you, we're not quarantined. We can still go out and walk and obviously be practicing proper social distancing. But Violet and I have decided that it'd be prudent right now for us to just stay put. We have plenty of stores. We're safe. We know what we're doing. And bugging out the way Violet and I bug out with a child is a completely different story. And we're just going to stay put for right now, unless it is absolutely necessary. But with that, we hope you subscribe, stick with us, check out the Patreon link that's going to be popping up in the corner, support, there's a new Discord, hop on there so maybe we can chat while we're all stuck indoors. And you all out there, stay safe, practice social distancing, stay at home, wash your hands, and hopefully this will pass over us and we can get back to life normally. And with that, we will see you next time.